Okay, welcome everybody. So we're starting to get ready for next year's tour. We are in the process of setting up partnerships with various choirs in Georgia and Armenia. And today we're going to be focusing on Armenian, what we need to know in order to be able to sing Armenian. And part of my goal here is to give you the tools so that you can start practicing these songs on your own. There are a lot of inconsistencies in the way people transcribe Armenian, so hopefully we can sort of clarify things there. At the end of this, I'm going to be going through take a quick look at some of the different Armenian pieces that we've got selected. Be sure that you have, for all the Armenian stuff, you have the 2024 edition of the Armenian music. That includes of Surp Surp. I've edited that after having looked at the original Komitas score and found some errors in the Guy Brewer arrangement. So make sure that you've got the current version. All of that music is in the repertoire folder in Google Drive. And actually, so John Mark asked, is this the right root folder? Stop for a second. So actually, yeah, you'll find stuff there, but there is a folder set up just for this, for the summer tour. And let me pull that up. Oh, just a sec. Actually, I'll go, if you don't mind, let's wait till the end so we can go through that stuff, because Roberto's not on the tour and I don't want him to stay on longer than he has to. I think everyone else is on the tour, and there's some other tour-related stuff that I'd like to go through at the end. But in answer to your question, John Mark, there is a folder with links to all the music that we will be using on this tour. So let me now share my screen. Can you all see my screen okay? Good.
Louis, I just had a question. Approximately how long is this session going to be, just so I can pace myself?
I think it's going to probably be about an hour.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good. So let's dive in. How many of you have sung Armenian before with the Yale Russian Chorus?
I suppose in some form or fashion. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Good. Okay, excellent. All right, so this will be a bit of a review and refresh. First of all, just a little bit about Armenian, useful information. So Armenian is an Indo-European language. It's the sole member of its language branch, which means that it is distantly related to Greek, Russian, German, English, etc. You may come across words that you recognize from other languages. For example, the pronoun for a second person familiar pronoun in Armenian is du, just as it is in German. The alphabet was developed by Saint Mesrop Mashtots in the 5th century. And actually, Mesrop wrote a lot of the sacred texts that are sung in church to this day, the classical Armenian texts. Armenian is considered to be an agglutinative language, which means that you add endings to words to indicate tense, grammatical function, etc. But unlike languages like Russian, there are no genders. So basically much the same endings apply across the board to different words. In that regard, it's similar to Georgian, which is also agglutinative. Word order is relatively free. You'll find in the texts that we sing that words are often in different order, and that's quite common in Armenian. The varieties of Armenian that we will be singing, there are two. So one is modern Eastern Armenian, which is spoken in Armenia and Russia, the former Russian Empire, and also classical Armenian, also known as grabar, which is used in church. And it's very analogous to actually Latin in the West. It's nowadays it is a liturgical language, and people sing it with different accents. We will sing it with the Eastern Armenian accent. So everything we're going to be doing, it will use Eastern Armenian pronunciation. So some of the song texts that we sing, for example, Surp Surp, is actually not Armenian, but is classical Armenian. And I bring this up because if you try to use Google Translate on some of the classical Armenian texts, sometimes you'll get weird translations, just as you would if you tried to translate Latin thinking it was Italian. Some people, as many of you are aware, there's also a Western Armenian dialect that was spoken in the former Ottoman Empire. The last time we toured in the Caucasus, there was a real, distinction in the Soviet Union. They say that people spoke Eastern Armenian. In the diaspora, people spoke Western Armenian because there were a lot of emigres from the Ottoman Empire. Now that's much less true. If you go to Armenian, Little Armenia, for example, in Los Angeles, you'll find a mix of Eastern Armenian and Western Armenian speakers. A lot of people have gone back and forth since the breakup of the Soviet Union. So you can find people speaking Eastern Armenian in the US and Canada. Since we're going to Armenia, which is where they speak Eastern Armenian, I think it's simpler all around for us just to use the Eastern Armenian dialect and pronunciation throughout. Here is the Armenian alphabet, which was developed by Saint Mesrop, and I think it's my speculation. He came up with his own letters to make them look different from Greek, because that was the dominant language at the time. It's a little bit tricky. There are a lot of letters that look similar to each other, but if you can start learning the Armenian letters as you're going through the music, it will be helpful in part because there's a lot of inconsistency generally in how people transliterate Armenian. In fact, on this chart that you see here that I got off of Wikipedia, it uses a different transliteration scheme than the one in our scores. And Eastern and Western Armenian transliterate differently. So if you're going off of transliterations, it can be helpful to have the actual Armenian alphabet to refer back to. Also, if you're trying to look anything up using Google search, you need the original Armenian text. In all the scores that I prepared for this, the Armenian text is right there and available for you. So,
Louis?
was there a question?
Yes, quick
Please
question.
go ahead.
So I noticed there are at least 4 sounds that relate to TS.
I will come to that in a moment. And that's one of the areas of confusion, the consonant system. So if you could hold that thought, David, we will dig into that, okay? But I want to look at go through the vowels first, because you know a key tell that a acquired doesn't know the language is if the vowels are not right. If you get the vowels right, then you're most of the way there. So I'm going to go through the Armenian vowels. They are all pure vowels, by the way, although some, you do add a y diphthong in front of some vowels. So I'll recite these and then you can repeat after me. So this vowel is ah. Say that. Ah. Okay. So here are some examples. Yerevan, Azjik, so let's repeat these as we go. Say, everyone, Yerevan.
Yerevan.
Good. Azjik.
Azjik.
Good. And then here is a full phrase. Yerevan Baghem Marel.
Yerevan Baghem Arel.
Very good. Okay. Next vowel is e. So here are a few examples. First one, der. Say that.
Der.
Der. Very good. It means Lord.
Er.
Means was. And here is a phrase from Surp, der Zorutians.
Zorutians.
Very good. Okay. So it's a front vowel. Here is another letter that is similar in modern Armenian. Ye or e. So it's like the previous vowel, although it tends to be shorter, and at the beginning of words it gets a ye, a y sound at the beginning. So here is a first example. Yerevan.
Yerevan.
Right. So you see, actually, it's the same letter that appears twice, but the first time it's a ye, and the second time it's simply an e. So whenever the letter is in the middle of a word or middle of a phrase, it just becomes e. Here's another example: yem or m.
Yem.
Okay, and so the phrase we're just looking at, Yerevan Baghem Arel. So
Yerevan. Yep.
you see, now in this case, it's M, not yem, because it's in the middle of a phrase. If you try to say Yerevan Baghem Marel, the y would kind of break up the phrase. So Armenians don't do that. Just Yerevan Baghem Marel. By the way, just so you're clear, the syllables that get stress are a boldface in all these examples, and generally the last syllable of a word gets stress. Here, the next vowel, E. So here are
E.
a few examples. Inch, which means what? Say that.
Inch. Inch.
Here's another, Guarani.
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 And here's a phrase that is actually from this a new song we'll look at, Guarani. Inch anush teger.
Inch.
Inch
Anush.
anush teger.
Teger.
Very good. Next vowel is an So it's a kind of a schwa sound in the middle of the vowel of the mouth, and it sometimes is written in explicitly as a letter. In other places, it adds in as filler to break up consonant clusters. So this is similar to what you see in Georgian, where schwas get introduced. So let's hear a couple of examples. Gasin,
Kassin.
Tin.
gasin,
Tin.
right? And then in the next phrase, masho,
Masho.
Masho.
masho, not
Masho.
it's
Masho.
masho,
Masho.
right? And actually, that word masho, in that case, the
Not
is
written in.
not written. Armenians add it between the and the sh to break it up. So let's say that whole phrase. En misho dash gasin.
En Masho. Ashtin.
Very good. Then we've got a couple of a few more vowels in the back. So this is aw, and it's open, sort of like ochanash, like the aw in Russian. If it's at the beginning of a word, then they often will add a v at the beginning, it becomes war. So let's look at a few examples. First one, Osana.
Ofsana.
Osana. By the way, here the stress is not at the last syllable because this is obviously a loan word from Hebrew. So here's an example of an exception to the last syllable being stressed. So Osana. Next one, ko.
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 Next one, vor.
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 And so here, and the final in a phrase, Opzana i barzuns.
Ofsana
Ibarzuns.
ibarzuns.
Very good. And then there is another o vowel, which in modern Eastern Armenian, it's the same vowel quality, but tends to be spoken. It's a longer vowel, longer duration. So here is one example: ornyal.
Ornyal.
Ornyal. That's right. And now let's look at the next phrase: ornyal vordiekir.
Ornyal.
Vordiekir.
Right. And so again, we saw on the last slide that all letter, it gets the v sound at the beginning. Vordiekir. Okay. And finally, u. It's written as as two letters, a digraph in Armenian. So here is an example you've seen before. Surp.
Surp.
Surp. and then we saw from the previous example, Barzuns.
Barzuns.
Zuns.
Okay. So, so those are all of the vowels. Any questions about the vowels before we dig into the consonants?
Do you have a reference card? Is there among the slides a consolidated reference?
What I'll do is I'll share these slides with you, and so you can refer to them.
Okay.
Okay, so in terms of consonants, and some of you alluded to this already, there are 3 types of consonants in Armenian. There are voiced consonants, there are voiceless consonants, and there are aspirated consonants. So just on the off chance, is anyone in this call know Chinese? Okay, well, if you knew Chinese, that in Chinese there's a distinction between voiceless, aspirate and aspirated. To tell the difference, put your hand in front of your mouth and say the word pit. English word pit. You feel the puff of air when you say that? Now say the word spit.
Spit.
So you may notice that there isn't a puff of air
Spit.
in
Spit.
in SP.
Spit.
In English,
Spit. Spit. Spit.
if you have a preceding S,
Spit.
then you don't aspirate. So one way to check whether you're aspirating or not is if you put your hand in front of your mouth and you hear puffs of air when they shouldn't be, then you're not doing it right. And this takes some practice. But the way it works in this transliteration is if there's an apostrophe, then that's aspirated. And if there is not a apostrophe, it's not. So let's give you some examples of each. So for example, voiced consonants. The first one, Barzuns.
Barzuns.
So those are the 2 voiced consonants. Do,
Do.
right? In Gorani, those are 3 voiced consonants in a row. Say that.
Gorani.
Gorani. And the final one, Surb.
Surb.
Yeah.
B.
Now,
B.
so we used to transliterate this with a P as SURP, but actually with B is more accurate. The difference though is that English speakers, when they have a voiced consonant at the end of a word, it's very strong. In fact, English speakers will open their mouth a little bit so that voiced consonant will sound. So like, for example, if you say the word in English, Serb, there's a bit of a B at the end.
B.
Armenians don't do that. They would say Surb. So that's why it's much subtler and it sounds almost like a voiceless consonant, but there is a bit of voice there. Now let's look at the voiceless consonants, and these will take some practice. First one, bezdik, say that. Bezdik. And the next one, komitas.
Yes.
Right? So this, of course, is our friend, our composer, Komitas. So if you're saying it right, the mouth should close, but there shouldn't be any aspiration. If you say komitas,
Komitas.
you're not saying it
Komitas.
right. Okay, komitas.
Komitas.
And then here are a couple of aspirated examples. Parok, say that.
Parok.
Parok. And
Parok.
then here's another one. Titernik.
Titernik.
Right. So
Titernik.
yeah, so that takes some practice. Titernik. It
Titernik.
closes, but if you're saying
Nik.
k at the end, you're not
Titernik.
doing it right. Titernik.
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 There you go.
Parok.
So then here are all the different consonants in each category, and I'll just recite them so so you hear them. Although let's see if I can move. Okay, so the voice ones are b, d, g, v, z, z, j, j, r, l, r, r, w, y, m, n. The voiceless b, d, g, f, z, z, sh, j, h, and h. And then the aspirated is h, t, k, t, and ch.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, where you see an apostrophe, you need to aspirate, and this is part of what makes Armenian transliteration so inconsistent, is that sometimes people drop the apostrophe. So so you have to watch out. In our scores, the apostrophes are there where they're where they are supposed to be.
Oh.
Any questions about that? Well, good.
I got a question, Louis.
Yes.
This method of transliterating with the apostrophes, is there another method of transliterating that's used sometimes instead of the apostrophe?
The apostrophe is always used, but sometimes people neglect to write the apostrophe.
Yeah, but there isn't another system. This is it.
As far as the apostrophes, yeah, there's no difference there. Now, there are some systems where they'll put a little upside down caret over some of the letters for like je and things like that. So you
Okay.
might come
I'm
across
thinking with
that.
the aspirations, I don't, since we're going to be singing other Slavic languages as well, I'm just wondering if I'm going to get confused with the yuri in Russian, and stuff like that. I'll keep it straight. I'll figure it out.
Good. I hope so. Yeah, it's yeah, go ahead.
Does the apostrophe mean the same thing in transcribing Georgian?
That's something different, and we'll have a set. Ray, we should probably have a session about Georgian as well to clear out some of these things. But it is that sound is made in a different way, and we'll go into that later. I think the aspirated Armenian vowel consonants are really pretty much like English aspirated consonants, because in English we generally aspirate everything. It's the unaspirated which is a little bit difficult for English speakers. And then one more thing to be aware of is that there are two R sounds in Armenian, and it's much like in Spanish. There's pero and there's perro. Okay, so where it's you see two R's, it is it's rolled, where you see just one R, it's not. And even it's a little bit like an English sound, not quite as pirate-like as that. It's not like R, but it is pretty close to the way we would sing R's in English. So let's compare a couple. The first word, der, say that.
Der.
There.
Der.
There.
So that's when they aspirated consonants. It's not der, but it's der.
There.
Der.
Yeah, and then the next one, tjarn.
Tjarn.
Yarn.
Tjarn. So you
Tjarn.
have a definite
Yarn.
roll there. Next example, yerkink. I'm sorry, yerkink.
Yeah.
Yerkink.
And then the next one, parok.
Baroque.
Rock.
Right. So if you're clear about rolling the double R's, then that will make you well understood.
So Louis, if I'm clear, the single R is not rolled.
It is not rolled.
Okay, which is rare in languages outside of English.
Maybe it's flipped but not rolled.
You
That's
can
the
flip
question.
it. Yeah, when you sing it, flip it.
Okay.
So again, Spanish, sing it like you would Spanish or even Italian. You know, if it's just a single R, just flip it, and if it's a double R, you roll it. Okay. So that's it for the sounds. And at the end of this, I've got a couple links to some YouTube recordings of the Armenian alphabet, so you can go back and refer to those as well. Now, let's talk a little bit in the remaining time about the Armenian repertoire that we will be singing. So there's a total of 5 songs that we'll be taking with us. It's a mixture of classical sacred arrangements, folk song arrangements, some modern compositions and arrangements, and Komitas has a big role to play in all of this, and I should explain why that is the case. So Komitas is a huge figure in Armenian music. So he was an Ottoman Armenian priest, musicologist, arranger, singer, choir master. He was really has a couple of important roles. One is, well, multiple, I guess. He was the founder of Armenian National School of Music. He also collected and arranged many Armenian folk songs. So my collaborators in Armenia, they sent me some of his arrangements, and it's great stuff because he really did work. He created good arrangements with clear texts, and that can be a challenge with folk music where there's different versions. Where there's a Komitas version, that's the one that I selected. Komitas also he arranged all the divine liturgy in European style, and a collection for male chorus was published in 1933, and those really are the standard. They're great tenor bass arrangements. One of them, Sur, was from that collection. I selected another one from that collection. Great resources. Unfortunately for Komitas, he developed PTSD as a result of the Armenian genocide the Ottoman Armenians were pretty much wiped out or pushed into exile. And so he's widely seen as a martyr of the genocide. So you just need to be aware that when we're singing Komitas stuff, there's a little bit of that undercurrent of the genocide behind that. And let me just give you as an example of this. This is a recording of Surp that I found. So listen and also watch. So you see how that chant became really a remembrance of Komitas. So did any of you catch the inscription on the monument in French there? So you saw as a monument to Komitas and the Armenians who were victims of the genocide. So there are, let's see, we got somebody, so Eric, you heard the soundtrack, didn't you? Who did not hear? There was sound. Who did not hear it?
Yeah, I did not hear it. Not
Interesting.
sure why.
Wow.
Okay, well, I'll share this deck afterwards, and so you can play it yourself.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay, so there are two other Komitas arrangements in this set. One of them is another sacred piece, a sacred chant, and this is more. It reminds me a little bit of Chvalite Imя Господне. There's a lot of alleluias in it, and it is a more upbeat, up tempo. Let me stop and restart the sound. Yeah, we are shared sound, so we should be fine there. I'll play a little bit of this just so that you can get a sense of how this goes. So it alternates between verses and alleluia back and forth. And then here is a third Komitas edition. Let's see, was there yeah. Okay, so and then the third Komitas arrangement, this is a folk song, and as you'll hear, so this moves pretty fast, but there are a lot of repeats. There is a couple of chorus parts that repeat between verses. There is a great first tenor solo in this, and whoever wants to prepare that that first tenor solo, let me know. I'll be happy to work with you on that. Let's play a little bit of that so you can hear how that goes. Oh, hush,
Liberty
hush,
Mutual
hush.
customized my car insurance, so I saved hundreds. But the money I saved, thought I'd get a wax figure myself. Oh, right in the temporal lobe. Beat it, punks! Only pay for
Sorry
what you
for
need.
the ad. Here we go. And then it repeats. So anyway, I think it shouldn't be too difficult to put together. Oh, the question was that recording, was that SATB? Yes, that recording was SATB. And in fact, for all the Komitas liturgy, there's a TTBB version and an SATB version. I chose the mixed chorus just because I thought the visuals were so great. So that's what Komitas has to contribute. Yerevan Bagemarel, we have sung before. I'll just play a little bit of that to refresh your memory of it.
Erevan bal emario neli aman neli aman
I couldn't find a choral arrangement of that, but at least you can hear how the music and the lyrics. And then the final folk song, Gorani. This is there are different versions of this, both of the music, the arrangement, and also the text. What I'm about to play for you is an arrangement performed by the Khazar choir in Yerevan. This was an arrangement by Edgar Hovhannisyan, who is a late 20th century composer. It just so happens that, I mean, I listened to various versions and put together an arrangement. It turns out that this one is actually pretty close to the Hovhannisyan arrangement. And I've asked Khazar Choir to send me their score. Once I get that, I may make some adjustments to the one we use. But what you'll hear here is pretty close. Gets you a sense of it. My arrangement also includes a bit of drum and tambourine in the background, like what you heard here. This is actually, it's sometimes performed as a line dance. Gorani is known both as a folk dance and as a folk song. So anyway, it should be a lot of fun once we have it going with the music and the percussion. So that's the end of my slides. Any further questions? Anything that we didn't cover up to this point? Okay, so let me get back to the question that came up at the. Oh, John Mark, did you have a question?
Just a simple question. Are we going to perform only Armenian pieces in Armenia? I assume we have a larger repertoire that we're going to perform there.
So the full repertoire, and again, actually, I'm going to go back to your question that you asked a moment at the beginning. Let me find, hang on a second while I, just a second while I locate it. So we put together a folder of the music for this tour. And some of you don't have this, I will forward a link to this again. But in this repertoire folder, you will find links to sheet music and links to study materials. And it's all the same stuff. If you know some of the other folders in the Google Drive, it's the same stuff. This just provides links to them all in one place. So let's go through it so you see what we've got. So we're going to have some American stuff. For example, Ain't It That Good News? So some of these from the Yale Songbook. There are a few Russian ones or Church Slavonic. Ach ty step shirokaya, Blažen muž, glasom mojim, Blagoslovi dusha moja Gospoda. There are some Georgian ones, Aslanuri Mravajamieri from the songbook. There are some others from the songbook. Kalinka, okay, so, and Kastyatadi. So I'd say about half of it is stuff that's familiar to everybody, but from a mixture of countries. So like Kastyatadi, Nesedi Jemo, okay? So we're working against the assumption that we're a Russian chorus and all we know is Russian music. We'll be having a mix of stuff from different countries. And as far as the Georgian things that we haven't done much in the past, but some of you may know, Lile is one, Odoya is another, and Smindal Gmerto is from the songbook. This is one, Roberto, you may remember this one. It was the title was Bandura. Did you sing that?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're bringing back Bandura. The Ukrainian full title is Zyav Banduru. So we want to include Ukrainian stuff, but not too much of a military nature. And so this seemed like a good example. Well known in Ukraine. So we'll be doing that. We'll also do Zir Valasia Hurtovena. So you see, it is it's a mix from different countries. As far as the English stuff, these were a lot of these are Steve Lipset arrangements, and those of you in the Apollo chorus may have done some of these already. You'll some of the old classics like They Can't Take That Away From Me. So this is the repertoire that we will bring. Then we'll draw from this depending upon which country we're in and the particular context of the concert. So in Georgia, we'll be doing Georgian stuff and maybe one Armenian song. Whereas in Armenia, we'll be doing more Armenian and less Georgian stuff. So, and we'll refine this as we go, but that's basically the plan, to have these ready to go as we need them. To prepare these, as there are study materials. There's for each song there's a folder that's got stuff that you can practice. Oh, some of you, Richard, you may be amused. We're going to do High Barbary.
Oh yes, this is a party tune that we did on our Yale song recording, but we did take it on tour with us.
That's right.
Yes.
So these are here. I haven't. When we get past the new year, we will start organizing sessions to focus in on stuff. As far as preparing the Georgian stuff, ask Ray. He'll be leading that. I'll be taking charge of the Armenian stuff, and Steve will be working with the American stuff, plus what other Yale Russian Chorus classics that we all know.
Correction, Greg Burnside introduced High Barbary, if I recall.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yes. Because we used to say for
Right.
Burnside, we fought along the main instead of for broadside. So yes.
Exactly. So we wanted to do a sea chanty, and so we said, well, what the heck? High Barbary. It's about time that we actually did it in a concert.
Can I ask Ray a
So
question?
that's the idea. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, David.
Can I pose a question about the Georgian arrangements?
Sure.
Yeah. Let me just do one thing to wrap up, and then I'll be done on the Armenian, and then we can talk about the Georgian stuff. So regarding voice parts, so in general, we're heavy on second tenors. So those of you, some second tenors have already volunteered to move to bass, and that's great. So right now we are short on first tenors. So what I would say is, if there's anybody who can do first tenor, that would be great. I think we could use another person on bass, because Ray, I think you would be great on the solo for Hoy Nazanim, and so I'd like to free you up to be able to do that first tenor. So check back with this later, but right now with the shifts we've got just about enough basses. Some of the music is 3-part, some of the music is 4-part, the Armenian arrangements. None of them are terribly low. There's no low bass stuff. So we'll sort through that. But anybody who can cover the first tenor or the bass that would be helpful. So I'll stop there. So David, you had a question about the Georgian stuff? Go for it.
Yeah, well, it had to do with the voicing. Ray, maybe you could tell us about that, because you've taught us since the April concert here in Boston about that you like to have more singers on the bass line and fewer on the top 2 lines. I wonder if you're going to want us to do that as well here.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes, I would say, sort of technically, there should be one person singing the top voice, one person singing the middle voice, and everybody else sing the Bani part. So I'm not saying that we have to do that, but we shouldn't have 5 people singing the middle voice in the Georgian stuff. And you shouldn't really have 5 people singing the top. And the Bani parts are not that low. Most people can sing the Bani parts. So I would say whatever, if you know the middle part, I'm not saying you never get to sing the middle part. Maybe we'll kind of switch off so people can take turns getting to sing the middle part that they already know. But everybody should learn the bass part. The drones. They're not always drones, but sorry?
When you say Bani part, what?
Bani is the bass. Bani is the bottom part in the Georgian music.
Okay.
So yeah, everybody, including the top voices, everybody should learn the Bani part, and they're usually not that hard. But it's just that the way the voicing goes, you need to have this massive bases, and then the top voices will might do a duet, and it's okay if you have two on the top, two on the middle, but it's really best if you have only one on top and one on the middle, because then they can do whatever variations, etc., they feel like. And whereas of course if there are two of them, they have to both do the same thing. So that's kind of the rationale for it. But generally, I mean, that's what the Georgians do too. Is there'll be lots of people who know the middle and know the top parts, and if somebody else is doing them, they sing the bottom. So everybody should please learn the bottom part, in addition to your own part.
Yeah.
And just be ready to switch off. Yeah.
In the Armenian stuff, it's an even split. Some of the arrangements are tenor bari bass. Some of them are tenor bass. So just take a look at the particular scores. And it's totally understandable as far as the Yale Russian Chorus classics. If you learn them in a particular part and it's a challenge to switch parts, we totally understand. Sing what's comfortable, but for newer stuff, we'll need more on the baritone bass and first tenor for sure. Another comment I might as well bring up now. Some of you are aware that traditional Georgian tuning is not Western style. So the Georgian tuning actually derives back from the ancient Greek music theory. You'll hear a little bit of that Greek style tuning in Armenian churches, but really in Armenia nowadays, everyone sings to a Western tempered scale. So what's on the page is what you sing. It's not the same as the case in Georgian.
Yeah, just maybe a comment on that is, in Georgia, this individual named Paliashvili seems to have played kind of a similar role to Komitas in that he did transcriptions of lots of folk songs, including Shankar Vanaki. And so the version that we do of Shankar Vanaki normally is the Paliashvili version, but there are lots of variants of that setting. These days in Georgia, there's a real push to try and sing things that people now consider kind of more authentic, that Paliashvili's transcriptions are kind of westernized. That one of the good things about that is they sound beautiful with Western tuning. I'm not sure that we're really going to try and do Georgian tuning. It's pretty hard to do. Maybe by the end of the tour we might have it in our ears, but it's pretty hard to learn it without being there, I would say.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
So whereas in Armenia,
but anyway, Georgian stuff is singable with Western tuning. So
yeah, absolutely. And the Armenians, Armenia have a different attitude. No one would accuse Komitas as being inauthentic because he used Western tuning. So, but if you go online and you hear Armenian chants, sometimes you hear, oh, gee, those intervals aren't what I'm used to. So I think it would sound more familiar to you, Ray, since you're familiar with the traditional tuning. That we will not be doing as part of what we're singing. Okay, well, we're past an hour. Any final questions at this point?
John, do you remember the question that we had from yesterday morning?
No, do you?
No.
All right. Well, we'll have some
So-
other chance.
Yeah, so be sure you get the 2024 score for Surp. The difference is, just so you know, is that in the original Gomidas version, the tenor lines cross in a few spots, and Guy Brewer didn't pick that up. And then there are a couple of places where I think Guy may have added a bar or subtracted a bar. And anyhow, there's small differences, but just get the latest score and you should be fine. Okay, David, did you have a question?
I was just to say a quick reminder about sending out that link to the folder for the, just to make sure we have it.
I will send the link to the folder, and I will also send the deck, okay?
Thank you.
Louis, do you have the link just to post in chat right now?
Let me try, see if I should have that. Yeah, just a sec. I think I have it. So now,
I believe you were showing it.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the link, okay?
Excellent.
All right, guys.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
no worries.
Thanks, Louis.
Have a good rest of your day, and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louis.
Thank you, Louis.
Bye-bye.
Great
Bye.
to see everybody.
Great to see everybody.